So I'm going to be the first person to say good afternoon rather than good morning. It's now 20 past 12. And as you're going to have the pleasure, I hope, of hearing from me again in a couple of hours' time, I'm going to keep it short and hopefully sweet. So firstly, I'm delighted to be taking part in this Durban Dialogue from B4E, powering ahead towards a clean industrial revolution. And I think from what we've heard from the two previous speakers, that's exactly what we need. And the great thing about B4E is it's focused on partnerships. And what both Andrew and Mornay have said, and I'm sure Bjorn will say after me, partnerships are what are driving change on the sort of scale that we need. So the risk of repeating what some people have already said, a few facts. In 39 or 40 years' time, we'll be 9 or 10 billion people on the planet, and a rather disturbing report I read recently suggests we might be 15 billion by the end of this century, and that really doesn't bear thinking about. The population of cities will double in that same period. At the same time, accompanied, as Mornay said, by a huge growth in prosperity. For many years, we thought we weren't developing. There are many, many people in poverty, but we are, as a whole, getting richer. 2 billion people in the world today are considered to be middle class, to have the sort of consumption and acquisitive patterns of behaviour that most of us have. In 10 years, that'll be 3 billion, and in 20 years, that'll be 5 billion. 5 billion people who all have, rather like me, teenage children wanting a new mobile phone every year, a new pair of sneakers. They want to go this, they want to go here, they want to go there, they want to buy, and consume. And I'm not one to tell them that they can't, but if we look at the same time, the stress that that's putting on our planet, and many of you are far more expert in that than I am, will know that it's not possible. 5 billion people wanting to buy and to consume all the time. Those people in the cities, 2/3 to 3/4 of them urban dwellers in the next 30 or 40 years. Again, all wanting the trappings that come along with urban life. That's why people run from the country to the cities. And many of us, once we've been in the cities for a long time, want to get out to the country as quickly as we possibly can, surrounded places like this. But the opportunity is still seen to be in the cities. In the next 40 years, or now 39 years, because this was in 2010, we're going to have to build double the urban infrastructure that has existed in all of humanity. So if you just think about that for a second. Everything that we've built in cities, from the time humans evolved from crawling along on all fours to stand up, people working on two legs and starting to live in towns and cities, we're going to have to build everything that we've built already again in 40 years to accommodate that rise in urban population. That's a huge challenge. And it's happening already in China. I mean, China's a great source of all sorts of examples for things that are far too big to imagine. In every 20 years, China is building the same urban infrastructure in terms of commercial buildings and residential buildings as the whole of the US. In every 20 years. And that's what's behind the huge investment figures that Andrew was mentioning. It's this huge growth in infrastructure. So, lots more people, consuming much more, in cities, great pace of change. And yet, as we know, Mornay said we need to hit 2 degrees, keep temperature increases below 2 degrees, and that means reducing emissions between 2/3 to 3/4 from roughly now levels over the next 39 years. If we think that we're not going to stop economic growth because all this population growth, all this urban growth is going to happen with growth in economic outcomes with production and so on and so forth, 3 to 4% on average a year for the next 30 or 40 years, we're going to have to do everything we do, produce everything we produce, and consume everything we consume with less than 1/10 of the emissions that we do nowadays. So there's anyone who's an economist knows this is about productivity, and lots of people have been talking here, which I think is very encouraging, about resource productivity. This is about carbon productivity. This is being 10 times more productive in terms of the carbon we emit, the way we use our atmosphere over the next 30 or 40 years. That's a big challenge. And if we go to the title of today's event, Powering Ahead Towards a Clean Industrial Revolution, the revolution bit is what's important. We're not going to improve our carbon productivity 10 times in 35 or 40 years through incremental change. Now, it's great. In the last decade or so, we've heard how businesses have set themselves targets. We're hearing more and more about it. 5% reduction, 10% an intensity target here or there. But if we're going to do a 10 times productivity increase, carbon productivity increase, that's just not enough. And that's rather the theme that we're hearing here and around the conference. Things are happening, and very exciting things are happening, but they're just not quite enough or quite fast enough. And again, that's what the clean industrial revolution is all about. And at the heart of that is change. And change is difficult. We all know change is difficult. In Britain, with electricity market liberalisation and banking liberalisation, you can change your bank account and your electricity supply every 2 weeks if you want to. This happened for about 20 years. 90% of the population have never changed it. Even though they could save money, they get fleeced by one bank, they could go to the one that's offering a better service, they never change. We're very resistant to change. And yet change is something that humanity is uniquely equipped to do. We're really good at it, often by accident. And if you just think in our lifetimes, the changes that have happened, but go back a couple of hundred years and you said to people, well, you're going to fly in a metal tube around the world and you'll be talking on a transmitting device you have in your pocket and watching a screen in a box in the corner of your room to find out what's happening around the world, and all the other fantastic things that we have nowadays. People have said, you're joking. I'm going to go out to the field, I'm going to till my field, and I'm going to take my food home, and that'll be pretty much it. And a few of us will work in a rather dirty mill in the northwest of England. But actually, those changes have happened, and they've been caused by us, driven by us, by our ingenuity and our innovation. And that's the change that is going to power, as the title says, the clean industrial revolution. But we need to change also the way we think, from a focus on cost, which to my mind, in 20 years of having followed these negotiations, is what the climate negotiations have been about. How do we share the cost, to a focus on opportunity? Now, that's not to say everything comes free, and Andrew's made clear that that's not the case. But if we focus on the opportunity, the cost is the entry ticket to getting to that opportunity rather than pain that we have to bear. Focusing on opportunity rather than cost opens up a whole wide range of things that we can do. And while people may complain that the negotiating process is going more slowly than it should do, and I think that's undoubtedly the case, if you look around Durban in the CCR Expo, you listen in the discussions that have happened here, a number of the conferences that are happening around Durban at the moment, it's really, really exciting. There's some fantastic technology. I was in one place the other day where there was this wonderful electric scooter, and I just wanted to steal it and go off up the coast on this electric scooter. There are electric vehicles, there are smart grids, there's all sorts of fantastic things happening without effective policy, although that policy is happening. So we can change. I was told last night by a guy from Microsoft that just through digitalization, the music industry has managed to reduce its emissions by 80% in the last decade, between 1995 and 2005, as a byproduct of being able to download music and transmute music in a way that we all like on our iPods and our phones. So we can do it. And that's what I think is really exciting. And some of the conversations here I've heard already today are not about we can't do it, but how we can do it. And that is the clean industrial revolution that we're talking about. It's a clean industrial revolution that I'm really excited to be part of. The Climate Group wants to partner with you, help you partner with each other, work with B4E, the World Bank, WWF. It doesn't matter who we are. We can all pull together. We can drive that change. And so let's bring it on. Thanks very much.